Where this Rifleman star ended up is so amazing. Step back in time to the beautiful 1870s New Mexico territory and follow Lucas McCain, a widowed rancher, and his son Mark on their journey as they star in The Rifleman. Acclaimed by many as one of the best Western series ever made, this classic show is filled with sharpshooters that fascinate viewers both young and old. Uncover fascinating stories about its cast members while you keep watching. The Rifleman story. For 5 seasons, The Rifleman enthralled its viewers with an iconic cast and crew, following the lead character McCain around his ranch, a setting that was crafted by renowned show creator Arnold Levin and developer Sam Peckinpah, gave fans an intimate look at the moral lesson of life and captivated them until the very end. It's no surprise, then, why this series from the late 1950s to early 1960s is still considered one of TV's most revered shows today. The Art of the Deal. When Chuck Connors was initially presented the lead role of Lucas McCain in the show, he declined due to the meager salary offered. As a result, producers immediately discussed James Whitmore and John Anderson for this part, as they figured one of them would accept their wage proposal. They were aware that Connors was perfect for the job, but since it was television, there wasn't enough funding to meet his expectations. Yet, then an incredible realization transpired. Chemistry between the actors. In 1957, Connors achieved success in the box office with Disney's Old Yeller. He co-starred alongside child actors Tommy Kirk and Kevin Corcoran. Producers noticed that they had good synergy on screen together, including how Connors could talk to such young people respectfully and understandingly. So they knew he was worth more money than initially offered. This discovery led them to make a revision to their offer, one which Connors gladly accepted without hesitation. Gun Fun. Arnold Lavin, the producer of the Rifleman series, mentioned in an interview that Connors was using the same trusty 1892 4440 Winchester rifle as used by John Wayne in his classic Western Stagecoach. The gun had quite a history. 12 shots were fired with it for each new episode's iconic opening credits. However, there's something peculiar about this weapon, contrary to what one might expect from such a legendary firearm being used on TV shows and movies. But wait a minute. According to the show's records, sets, and allusions to history, The Rifleman was set in the 1870s and 1880s. McCain brandished an impressive modified Winchester Model 1892 with a large lever which allowed him to cock it by twirling it. The gun hadn't even been created yet. Could this be why the show unfortunately had its run cut short? We'll find out shortly. Character development. 3 years prior, the renowned filmmaker, Sam Peckinpah, had written a script to be featured as a pilot on the popular Western show Gunsmoke. However, it declined. Eventually, Peckinpah decided to revisit his project and make some adjustments, namely changing John McCain's name from Lucas McCain and incorporating a son into the narrative of The Rifleman. His involvement in this endeavor gave it credibility that could not have been achieved otherwise. These modifications were sure to bring about success for this classic Western series. Adding drama. To make his production more unique, producer Arnold Lavin chose to transform Lucas McCain into a widowed father raising his son on his own, as well as altering him from an adequate pistol shooter to an expert sniper with a rifle. This decision was highly praised and led to the number 32 ranking of Lucas McCain among TV Guide's 50 Greatest TV Dads of All Time in its June 20th, 2004 issue. Awesomely ambidextrous. Lucas McCain possessed an extraordinary ability to hit his target with unfailing accuracy no matter which hand he used. Audiences watched in amazement as he effortlessly switched hands during shooting scenes, yet never lost sight of the mark. Remarkably, this was a talent that Connors and other cast members failed to mention on or off screen. However, fans were not so easily fooled and have made sure Lucas's incredible accomplishment is remembered for years to come. He had a bad habit. Back in the 1950s, when The Rifleman was filmed, cigarettes weren't necessarily deemed as evil. Surprisingly enough, on the show itself, Lucas McCain smoked a cigarette only once. In reality, though, Chuck Connors consumed 60 cigarettes each day. Consequently, this led to his untimely death at 71 from lung cancer and pneumonia. But it definitely wasn't Mr. Connors' passing that caused The Rifleman to go off air. Keep watching if you'd like to uncover why. Manly spin-off. Lucas McCain would often engage in lengthy conversations with his son Mark, discussing matters of morality and the importance of doing what's right. But he had other close friends as well, including a plainsman character portrayed by Michael Ansara on 2 episodes of The Rifleman. His role was so popular that it eventually led to its own show, titled Law of the Plainsman in 1959. Although, sadly, this ahead-of-its-time series didn't gain much traction or success at the time. Widower's Peak. Lucas McCain was a revolutionary figure in American television as the first ever widowed parent shown raising a child alone. Sam Peckinpah wrote thoughtfully engaging scripts that provided an authentic, admirable father-son dynamic on screen. Subsequently, this novel concept soon became popular. We now see single dads frequently featured throughout modern TV, but it all started with The Rifleman. All-around athlete. Brooklyn native Chuck Connors was one of the inaugural members of the Boston Celtics in 1946 and is known as the first professional basketball player to ever shatter a backboard. His incredible athletic prowess earned him recognition by scouts and coaches alike, allowing his career to soar quickly. He even briefly played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and Chicago Cubs baseball teams, as evidenced by this photo. The dream continues. After leaving the Celtics, Connors had a dream come true by playing with his childhood heroes, the Brooklyn Dodgers. Subsequently, in 1951, he joined the Chicago Cubs as first baseman and was even drafted by none other than Chicago Bears. Such athletic success must have been attributed to Connors' ambidextrous talents and made him extraordinary at any sport he played. One can only imagine what kind of career this amazing man could be having if still around today. The most violent show on TV? When The Rifleman was broadcasted, it was deemed to be one of the most chaotic shows aired alongside its cohort show, The Untouchables. McCain had crafted an innovative semi-automatic weapon that enabled him to shoot rapidly and accurately. The town's marshal, Micah Torrance, played by Paul Fix, battled a drinking problem. He needed assistance from McCain in order to maintain North Folk's lawfulness and peace. When times became unbearable, Torrance would often turn to Sweeney's bar in a desperate attempt to drown his sorrows. It was also common for villains to take advantage of this vulnerability and ply the marshal with liquor, using it as leverage against him in order to manipulate the situation and keep him out of their way. Johnny Crawford's favorite episode. In an interview, Johnny Crawford shared that his favorite episode out of all the ones he had filmed was The Vision. The actor reflects fondly on it and remembers thinking how imaginative and unique this particular episode was at the time. This is due to the fact that shooting took 9 days instead of 3, as he'd been suffering from a high fever during production. At that point in his life, Crawford's tastes were heavily influenced by The Twilight Zone, thus remaining one of his most beloved episodes to date. Crawford wasn't acting, he was really sick. Crawford recalled, "I was aware that if I wasn't in good health while working on the set, the lady who taught me, and happened to also be a welfare worker, had an obligation to take me off set until I felt better. Although I wanted to avoid prolonging production by disclosing my lack of well-being, it became evidently apparent. When the camera started rolling on scene where they had to pack me in ice, she noticed I was really sick. It had a high fever and it needed to be brought down right away. This happened to be one of the first scenes we shot for that episode, quite appropriate considering my momentary condition." Beware the Candyman. With the spellbinding addition of Sammy Davis Jr. to The Rifleman, audiences were mesmerized by his phenomenal shooting and gun-spinning skills as he played Tip Corey, a mean sharpshooter, and Wade Randall, a cowboy. It's perplexing how this incredible show ever went off the air with such an impressive roster of engrossing guest characters. Smallpox epidemic. The television show claims that Mark McCain's mother passed away from smallpox in Oklahoma during the 1870s. A disease which has been around since long before written records even existed. Shockingly, smallpox had an extensive reach across the world in the 18th century, claiming lives at an alarming rate of up to 90% of entire populations. By the turn of the 19th century, scarlet fever, yellow fever, typhus, and diphtheria had made their way to North America. It's highly probable that these illnesses were responsible for families mourning lost loved ones during the time period. Shedding mouse ears. As one of the original 24 Disney Mouseketeers, Johnny Crawford was cut from the club after its initial year due to a reduced age requirement of 12 years old. This didn't stop him, though. He'd already made his mark with an appearance in NBC's live broadcast of Little Boy Lost before taking on further roles such as the Lone Ranger and many more. By this point, Crawford was only 12, yet that didn't hinder his ambition when it came to obtaining parts, such as the famous role in The Rifleman, and becoming even bigger than ever expected. What Johnny Crawford looked like all grown up. After achieving television stardom in the 1950s, Johnny Crawford took a common route for aspiring stars of that era, becoming an adored teen idol and launching his singing career. Fortunately, this was a wise choice as it paid off beautifully. His biggest hit, Cindy's Birthday, charted at number 8 on the Billboard's Hot 100 list back in 1962. Tragically, Crawford passed away in 2021 following a long fight with Alzheimer's disease and complications from COVID-19. Thankfully, he had his wife by his side until the very end. Crawford enlists in the Army. After his singing career, Johnny Crawford enlisted in the United States Army in 1965. Throughout his 2-year enlistment, he used his film experience to help create the Army's instructional videos and was honored with reaching the rank of sergeant before being honorably discharged at the end of 1967. Shortly afterwards, he starred as a soldier on an episode of Hawaii Five-0. Why was The Rifleman really canceled? Despite receiving lower ratings, The Rifleman was ultimately canceled due to actor Johnny Crawford's aging process, which is expected for kids after all. Later on in an interview with The Rifleman, the Chuck Connors page, Crawford discusses the show's return and commented, "I never did know exactly why it ended. That said, I wasn't too concerned as I'd been eager to explore other opportunities after being involved with the series for 5 years." In my opinion, the series had become somewhat dull and its scripts were not as compelling. In terms of quality, I truly believe our inaugural season topped them all, and it showed in the ratings. Hopping around. Way before Dennis Hopper hopped on a motorcycle in Easy Rider, he featured in the first episode of The Rifleman, titled The Sharpshooter. He also acted as an entirely different character at another stage called Three-Legged Terror. Other actors were involved too. Given how well-liked this show was, there's only one query left to answer. Why'd it go off the air? Play it again, Paul. In the 1950s, there was a shortage of male actors who could play cowboys on TV. Paul Fix, later known for his role as Marshal Micah Torrance in the show, played an uncredited part as a compassionate doctor healing Hopper's character in the Sharpshooter episode. Interestingly enough, you'll be taken aback to learn which other hit series Paul Fix had an appearance in. Trekkie tie-in. In the second pilot episode of Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before, Paul Fix portrayed Dr. Mark Piper. When it was eventually picked up by a network, DeForest Kelley replaced him in the role. To everyone's surprise, when episodes began airing on television during Season 1 of Star Trek, this particular one ended up being third and not first as expected, meaning that viewers were introduced to McCoy before they ever met Piper. How amazing is it that from space exploration to acting, universes apart? Who would have thought? What might have been. Having been raised on a ranch, many believe that Sam Peckinpah was exceptionally well suited to breathe realism and gritty detail into the stories of the Rifleman. Being passionate about continuing his artistic contribution, he eventually left the show after Season 1 in order to craft memorable films such as The Wild Bunch and Straw Dogs, leaving an indelible mark within entertainment history. A theme of forgiveness. One of the central messages across The Rifleman was that of forgiveness. In The Marshal, Lucas McCain demonstrates this message by hiring a former convict, showing his belief in everyone's right to a second chance. Similarly, in the Sheridan story, we see General Philip Sheridan exhibiting repentance and asking for absolution when he meets with a Confederate soldier who's lost an arm during the Civil War while on the ranch, clearly demonstrating he's ready to cover all medical costs as part of his apology. Filming the ranch. Set in North Fork, a small town of the New Mexico Territory, The Rifleman has gained cult-like popularity for its memorable characters and captivating storyline. Although the classic TV series was filmed almost entirely in Los Angeles, many scenes took place at Malibu Creek State Park, Calabasas Iverson Ranch in Chatsworth, as well as Corriganville Movie Ranch. At Paramount Ranch, located near Agora Hills, fans can experience the remnants of an old western town firsthand by walking through it on hikes, sponsored by local parks. Immerse yourself into the Rifleman's world with one visit to California's amazing outdoor locations. Show rankings. When the Rifleman debuted during the 1958-1959 season, it swiftly captured the attention of viewers across America. A staggering 14,547,450 people were entertained by this show in a time when there were only 43 million households with TVs. Although viewership steadily declined over 4 years and eventually dropped out of the top 30 programs for 1962-1963 season, its legacy lives on today. Fans all around continually cherish it fondly as one of their favorite shows ever. Stuntman Archie Butler. The Rifleman's director, Arnold Lavin, acknowledged that Archie Butler, a stunt double for Paul Fix and rodeo professional, featured in more episodes than any other actor, apart from the core cast. During the 1950s and 1960s movie industry boom period, Hollywood's daredevil stuntmen took on calculated risks while executing stunts. Still yet, with horses, there's always an inherent hazard involved. In addition to The Rifleman, Archie appeared in Across the Wide Missouri, Westward the Woman, and Bonanza. Chuck Connor's relationship with Johnny Crawford. Despite their close work-related bond, Chuck Connors and Johnny Crawford didn't sustain a fatherly relationship off-screen. When asked by AMC whether he viewed Connors as a father figure, Crawford answered, "No, not really. I was deeply impressed with him and enjoyed working alongside him. However, his demeanor changed drastically when the camera stopped rolling. He had an incorrigible sense of humor that kept us entertained, while simultaneously demonstrating inappropriate behavior, evident in his frequent profanity usage and intimidating attitude towards others around him. Despite all this, though, he still found it quite entertaining." Johnny made the top 40 5 times. The extremely busy 13-year-old, juggling acting roles from The Rifleman to The Mouseketeers and even The Loretta Young Show, took the music industry by storm with his 5 top 40 hit singles. From Cindy's Birthday to Your Nose Is Gonna Grow, Johnny Crawford proved himself a musical prodigy, far beyond what most could imagine in 1962 and 1963. His success was due not only to his immense talent, but also the hard work he put into each of these performances that transcended both genres, on and off screen. Kevin Joseph Connors. Though the world recognizes him as Chuck Connors, Kevin Joseph Connors is the man behind Lucas. On April 10th of 1921, he was born in Brooklyn and had to face hardship during the Great Depression alongside his parents, Alan and Marcella, and sibling Gloria. Somehow, his mother was able to provide enough nourishment for them all, despite the financial struggles they were dealing with. During this hard time, Kevin found comfort in playing sandlot baseball at Bay Ridge Boys Club under Coach John Flynn. It gave him an escape from reality, while also allowing him to gain much-needed wisdom that would help shape who he became later in life. The Chuck Connors theatrical empire. After Chuck Connors realized that his professional baseball career was not meant to be, he began his journey as an actor in Hollywood when cast in the 1952 film Pat and Mike. His legacy on-screen expanded beyond The Rifleman with roles in South Sea Woman, Trouble Along the Way, Old Yeller, The Hired Gun, The Big Country, Move Over Darling, and even Airplane 2, the sequel, demonstrating a talent for versatility across genres throughout a long and successful acting career. All About Television. Notoriety was a huge part of Connors' professional career, with roles on renowned television shows like The Rifleman and The Adventures of Superman as Sylvester J. Superman, Crosswords, Dear Phoebe, Tales of Wells Fargo, Hey Jeannie, and The Loretta Young Show, just to name a few. In addition, he graced us with an appearance on Lucille Ball's Here's Lucy. Connors is truly an iconic figure in American TV history that will be cherished for years to come. The guest stars. Chuck's unparalleled experience in the entertainment industry allowed him to invite professional athletes like Duke Snider and Don Drysdale to appear in The Rifleman. As the show lasted 5 years, big-name actors such as Sammy Davis Jr., John and Richard Anderson, Warren Oates, Robert Vaughn, Buddy Hackett, alongside hundreds of more guest stars, boosted ratings for each episode, overall making it one of the most popular shows during its era. A great quote. Chuck Connors had an unyielding passion for sports, and especially baseball. It was such a sad day when he recognized that the time to bid farewell to his beloved sport had come. He credits much of his success in Hollywood due to this particular game, as reflected by this quote. "My entire achievement rests on what I have gained from baseball. My entrance into the film industry would not have been possible without it. To this magnificent activity, which has given me so much, my debt shall remain everlasting." A mountain of merchandise. The Rifleman is one of the most iconic Western shows in television history, and its fame has only grown with the rise of merchandise sales. From DVD collections per season to apparel, mugs, books, and lighters, the Rifleman's memorabilia still holds great value today, and you can find it on a plethora of websites such as eBay or their official site. No matter what time comes our way, the Rifleman will never die out due to its everlasting legacy that continues throughout generations thanks to these beloved souvenirs. Lucas's love interest. The charming Lucas, played by Chuck, had many A-list actresses listed as love interests throughout the show. Stars like Julie Adams, Amanda Ames, Patricia Barry, Patricia Blair, and Ellen Corby all graced his arm at some point, not to mention Joan Taylor, who held a special place in his heart, being that she was a widower seeking companionship. His many relationships showed great range with other prestigious names such as Catherine Bard and Sherry Jackson amongst them. The real Millie Scott. Introducing Joan Taylor as Millie Scott, the beloved new storekeeper and primary love interest of McCain. After Lucas's tumultuous journey while parenting his sons and tackling life's challenges, producers decided it was time for him to find stability. Enter Millie. Clad in jeans with her inheritance in hand, she bought a general store that stole the heart and attention of protagonist Lucas McCain. No doubt astonishingly popular among fans, Millie truly made an impact. The young Emmy nominee. Johnny Crawford was already an accomplished actor within the industry by 13 years old, and his performance as Mark McCain on The Rifleman resulted in a nomination for an Emmy Award. Despite being beat out by Dennis Weaver from Gunsmoke, Johnny's mere recognition at such a tender age is remarkable. Rest in peace, Chuck Connors. On November 10, 1992, Chuck Connors passed away from pneumonia linked to lung cancer. While his character on the show only smoked once, he was a chain smoker in reality and indulged in 3 packs of cigarettes per day until his 50s. It took him 30 years to successfully quit smoking after starting it back in 1940, but sadly by then it was too late for him to recuperate from its effects. Johnny still loves Chuck. Johnny Crawford felt the impact of Chuck's passing especially hard. As his mentor, Johnny had grown close to him over their many years together and even delivered his eulogy. Chuck was an incredible person, so full of life. He loved meeting new people and wasn't ever afraid to be himself. "He definitely left a lasting impression on me," said Johnny fondly as he reminisced about their time together. "I owe my success in acting to him because I learned more from watching how he interacted with others than any book or class could have taught me." With these meaningful words, it's clear that Chuck will continue living on through those who knew and admired him best. The canceled remake. Anticipation was high when it was announced in 2011 that the popular television show would be remade with Chris Columbus as executive producer and Willie Nelson and child actor Jacob Tremblay set to star. Unfortunately, mere months later, those plans were scrapped before a single episode could even be filmed, leaving fans of the soon-to-be reboot crushed.